Hey everyone, it's Alan Shimel. I'm back here live. We're back here live at KubeCon. This is by far the busiest show floor I've seen in any KubeCon. I know there's 13,000 people, and I think they're all right here.
Yeah.
Luckily, the magic of technology, you're hearing us and seeing us, I hope. And because if you would hear the din of the background noise here is ridiculous. I'm really happy. We're going to be doing a little bit something special here right now. We're going to be doing a DevOps Unbound live kind of panel live at KubeCon. We've got our very special VIP guest, Martin Klaus, who evidently when he travels at events brings his own security. And
Mihai and Hashib.
These are your friends, Mitch.
We're there.
guys,
thanks for keeping us safe. We appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We appreciate it. You're good guys.
I don't know. I guess Martin's a high visibility kind of target or something here, huh?
I don't know what you're into, Martin, but I'm glad you've got
This is like
security
something
there.
out of the blacklist or something.
You guys
know?
are too funny.
But anyway, so this is Martin Klaus from Tricentis. If you've watched any DevOps Unbound episodes, you might have seen Martin on a few of them. But you know, it's funny at Zoom, you only see people from here up. He's actually a pretty tall guy. Speaking of tall guys, to my right here is our CTO at TechStrong and Principal Research Analyst, Mitch Ashley. Mitch, thanks for being here.
Always.
And we're here. So, DevOps Unbound. Look, we always discuss everything under the sun on DevOps Unbound. But Martin, I wanted to focus today's talk a little bit on what's different about testing and continuous testing in a cloud native environment versus any other environment.
Yeah. So first of all, Alan, Mitch, thanks for having me. It's great to finally meet you in person after many years.
It is.
And it's unbelievable, the energy, the vibe, the community of KubeCon. As you mentioned, 13, I think it's actually more than 15,000 people are here.
Yeah.
This place is crazy. It's unbelievable. If you have not been to KubeCon, you definitely need to come here in person and see for yourself. But coming back to your question, what's different? So I've been in Cloud Native for a long time. I've worked at Red Hat. I've worked in OpenShift and containers and Kubernetes. But Kubernetes is still in at 0.9. And so I would say if you look back over the last couple of years, a lot of things have changed because one of their main objectives of DevOps was to bridge the gap between Dev and Ops and to move applications into production much faster, to deliver more value to business much more quickly than in a traditional waterfall or even an agile model. And so what happens is when you're trying to move faster and you change your process to work more efficiently, to work in small increments, then the application architecture evolves as well, right? We have moved from, monolithic, big web applications to microservices that you can update and scale out much more efficiently. Data has evolved from data at rest to data in motion, and streaming of events has become one way for data and applications to communicate with one another. And so if you think through that, then you also have to think about how does that impact testing and test automation. And the whole notion of quality engineering becomes a lot more important because you have to think about quality from an architecture standpoint. You have to think about quality from an end user standpoint and the experiences to deliver. But you also have to think about how can you ensure quality through the development process as it relates to functional requirements, as it relates to business requirements, as it relates to performance requirements. And a lot of companies are also dealing with security and compliance and governance. So all these things have to be considered. And it cannot be solved by tools alone. You have to think about the process as well. And most important, I would say, is adopting a quality first mindset and not just, move things in production and see if it sticks, but to be more thoughtful about how you're building applications, how you deliver it, and ultimately what is the value delivering to our end users.
Yeah, I'm curious, listening to your thoughts on that. Thinking about the people that we've interviewed, and just a few of them today already. It's OpenShift Red Hat folks. It's ARM processor and getting more applications on that platform. It's cloud native application company. It's object storage. the number of variables, I mean, there's always been a large number of variables
Yeah.
to test for environments. It seems like that's even bigger. I mean, maybe exponentially more complex
Yeah.
in this cloud native environment because there's so many different platforms. I mean, AI, add all that to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you just walk around the show floor here, you'll be blown away by how many different use cases and features and capabilities that are enabled on the Kubernetes platform. I think one other aspect that's really important to think about is, develop or testing is everybody's responsibility, or quality is everybody's responsibility, not just the traditional QA folks. It's developers, it's project managers, it's release engineers, it's SREs, and everybody else that's involved in it. But one key difference oftentimes is, and this is something that I hear a lot from, my quality engineering counterparts at, not just testing companies, but in enterprise, that it's not just about the happy path, that you envision as a developer that your users go through. Quality engineering is a lot about, finding out what are the edge cases where things might break. What are the environments where you run into a gotcha type situation, and how do we prevent that from happening? Because ultimately, end users all have different environments, different browsers. They log in through mobile devices, through different network configurations. They may have multiple applications running, and inevitably somebody's going to use the application in a way it was not intended or designed to deal with. And so that's ultimately causing quality issues. And so that's really, I think, what quality engineering to be about, is to figure out how can we maximize the footprint of all the things that we're exposing the application to identify those weak points that we need to prevent from happening in the first place.
Martin, one of the trends that I see at CloudNativeCon, KubeCon already, is the move to platforms, right? And I think it's a maturation phase of, we're doing this, Mitch is heading up this report we're doing called DevOps Next, where we're looking at what's next in the gamut of DevOps.
Yeah.
Right to left, left to right, the whole thing. And one of the trends is instead of cobbling together, we got some.
I feel like on the airplane,
I feel like I'm at the airport. Yeah, I'm ready. I got to go board. See you later.
You're missing your flight.
Yeah, but I think I left my wallet at the TSA booth.
That's
but,
right.
But one of the trends is getting away from point solutions that are cobbled together to platforms. And almost like the Russian nested dolls, platforms of platforms. So you can have a continuous testing platform like a Tricentis, and that has a complete suite of tests optimized for a cloud native environment for what you're doing. And that has to fit into a larger cloud native platform, that takes up my whole CI/CD, my whole software supply chain type of environment. What's Tricentis doing, both to expand that testing platform, but also to fit into that larger cloud native?
I think the notion of platformization is one of the hottest trends in the industry right now. You hear about platform engineering, you hear about development platforms, you hear about quality platforms. And the main driver for the adoption or the growth of these platforms in the industry is really like, what can we do to help developers or testers and project teams stay in the flow? Because there's so many things you have to think about. There's so many distractions. There's so many sort of other tasks you have to do during the day. And to stay focused on a particular pull request or a particular project or a particular sort of feature requirement it's very hard if you think about all the meetings and disruptions that you're going to deal with every single day. And platforms can help with that, to help you simplify and automate a lot of things so that there's less cobbling together that you have to do on your own. And one thing that is really important, I think also from a Tricentis standpoint, is reusability. And how can we enable more use cases with quality platforms? And one thing that we see a lot with our customers is that there are not just applications you build in-house in the enterprise, there are applications that you, or SaaS applications you configure and deploy or enhance, or an application you just use. So you'll see the whole gamut of applications that you deploy and configure, that you use across the enterprise, but then also applications that you're extending and building yourself. And how can you deliver an end-to-end quality automation platform that supports all the different use cases between enterprise IT, back office applications like Oracle and SAP, business applications like Salesforce and ServiceNow and many others, as well as the custom applications that you use internally, but that can also be client-facing, right? And what we found is that a lot of customers are looking for ways to standardize process through a quality engineering framework, but they're also looking to standardize on tools and platforms so that it enable quality engineers across many different teams to work together with their development counterparts to release applications faster. And so that's kind of like what we're trying to do, to really focus on usability and the end user experience, but also make it easy for people to get started with functional automation, but then expand it to, data testing, for example, or load testing, mobile testing, and other things that they may need to do for the particular application that they're trying to release.
Really makes the case. Platforms aren't just for infrastructure. Yes,
No.
that's part of it, but it's
So
platforms up the stack. And
Well, it's horizontally and
Yeah,
vertically
exactly.
is the key to it. And like I said, it's like that Russian nested dolls thing. There's platforms within platforms. But
for
again,
Dune, you got to make it a Dune. Plans within plans.
spirals within spirals.
Yeah, or think about it as layers, right? Like the networking layers of, L1 through L7 might be one analogy to think about. What you're doing on the infrastructure layer, what you're doing at the application layer, at the testing layer, and so forth.
Well, at the end of the day, the spice must flow.
Let's see. Sleeper must awaken, too. But so, can I ask the AI
Sure.
question? We haven't talked about AI.
Oh, it's enough time. Go ahead.
We have an upcoming live session on testing AI in your applications. I'm curious your thoughts, and I wish I had the date on it. We'll get that out to everybody. What are your thoughts about when you incorporate AI into your apps? There's models, there's data, there's training. They kind of have their own flows, or even more so than just a database or data source. How do you think about testing in a cloud native world that has AI part of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I
Let's
think that's
answer that in 5 seconds.
the whole industry is sort of thinking about that right now, because on the one hand, today, for example, we saw many great use cases for AI models and put them into production, and using LLMs to summarize a live picture of what's being seen, and so also we're seeing the use of AI from a code generation standpoint, right? And there was a recent article from Jyoti Bansal who mentioned that we've shifted the problem from development to QA, and what used to be 3 developers, 1 QA, it's now 1 developer and 3 QAs, because developers can now generate so much more code using AI tools, and now that puts the burden on the testers to verify the increase in potential security flaws and things of that nature that are being introduced if the code is not being tested and validated but generated from some random source. So that's one aspect. But I think the bigger question in the industry right now is, how do we test the validity of the results of an AI model, and if the summaries and all the things that an LLM can generate are meaningful and they're free of hallucinations and things of that nature. I think that's a great use case for exploratory testing. I think there's also an opportunity to actually use other LLMs to test the output, from LLMs, and see if there's like consensus among LLMs on the results. But at the end of the day, you still need a human in the loop. We're not at this point yet where the human is completely eliminated from the FS cycle. And as the technology matures, I'm sure there's going to be more opportunity for automation to test AI. But for now, I would say we're still very much in sort of the good old, exploratory testing, being able to trace back to the data, how the LLMs came up with certain results. But, that is still sort of like the big problem for an industry to crack.
Makes sense.
No doubt. I mean, we could stay here and talk cloud native and AI and
Well, everyone
QA
else here
and
is.
testing.
Actually, AI was the star of the keynotes today, too.
Yeah, that's what
everyone
we
was
heard.
saying. Anyway, hey, Martin, I want to thank you for stopping by. I can't believe you came all the way to Paris just to do a cloud native.
For this one
to do
session. This is
a
great.
DevOps Unbound thing with us.
That's
That was
commitment.
nice of
That's
you.
commitment.
Yep. But seriously, thanks to you and
Thanks for having me.
Tricentis as always. We're going to be back to our regular schedule of DevOps Unbound, I guess when we get back in another week or two. But until then, we'll be here live all week covering what's going on at KubeCon. Many thanks to Martin Klaus and Tricentis, Mitchell Ashley, and Alan Shimel. You're watching TechStrong TV.